Your book makes it clear that you're heavily guided by your Christian faith and family values. How do you reconcile that with having been the spokesperson for a president who has misled the American people on everything from coronavirus to climate change, who boasts about grabbing women on the pussy, who paid hush money to a porn star to keep her quiet about their alleged relationship, and who's maligned the men and women of America's armed forces?
Oh, well, some of those things are just patently false, but I can tell you from my experience, when the liberal mob was attacking me, when the liberals were kicking me out of restaurants, making fun of my hair, my makeup, my fitness to be a parent, saying I should be choked, telling me that I'm vile, not even human, it was the president who was defending me, not the liberal mob, not the elitist who claimed to be all about women's empowerment, but Donald Trump was the one who supported me, defended me, and encouraged me and gave me confidence to take on that job.
I notice that you're not addressing the central premise of my question, which is how somebody like Donald Trump squares with the values you espouse.
Look, I don't look to any individual person to give me perfection. I'm not looking for a savior in politics. I have that in my faith. There is no perfect person, only one. And as far as I know, he's never run for office. I've never seen Jesus Christ's name on a ballot. If I do, I'll be sure to vote for him. But the contrast is between two candidates. For us in the United States, it's Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I think Donald Trump has done a good job in 4 years of fighting for the American people. And I think he will continue to do so for the next 4 years and continue to deliver on the things he set out to do.
After the FBI Director James Comey was fired, as White House spokesperson, you said that countless members of the FBI had told the Trump administration they had no confidence in him. Under oath to the Mueller investigation, you admitted that was not founded on anything, a slip of the tongue, and said in the heat of the moment. How often did you have those kinds of slips of the tongue in the heat of the moment as White House spokesperson?
Well, I write about this pretty extensively in my book. I actually encourage you to read it because I think you would learn a lot about me and a lot about the president. I address the fact that the Mueller investigation was nothing more than a political hit job set out to take the president down. I knew from the minute I walked in, the fact that I was there voluntarily, also to clarify, not under oath, but I would have gladly taken one. And I came not as a target, not as a subject of the investigation, and voluntarily participated. And they made me feel like a common criminal.
Could you address my question, please?
Helpful to an investigation that I knew to be nothing more than a political sham and a witch hunt designed to take the president down for the sin of winning an election.
Did you make up that countless members of the FBI told you that they had no confidence in James Comey?
I said that I shouldn't have used that word, and that was the mistake that I made. But I had heard from a number of members of the FBI, both current and former, but I said I shouldn't have used that particular word. Again, I encourage you to read my book. I write all about it in there.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders, thanks for your time.
You bet. Thanks.
The best part of this interview is that it was supposed to be to promote Sarah Huckabee Sanders' new book. And yet I'm not sure that anyone watching this was pulling out their credit cards to line her pockets anytime soon. This is Lee Sales, an Australian journalist who hosts the show 730, giving a clinic in how to hold a corrupt Trump administration official to account. And most devastatingly, she points out how the exact same values that Republicans like Sarah Huckabee Sanders pretend to espouse are the ones that this president flouts most. For example, she talks about Sanders' Christian faith and her supposed devotion to family values, while serving as the mouthpiece for a man whose entire existence has been in direct contrast to everything that she supposedly represents. And yet Sarah Huckabee Sanders' response to all of this is to paint herself as the victim. She whined about the evil liberals being mean to her and making fun of her, which I must say is quite the complaint coming from the woman who spoke on behalf of Donald Trump. And yet the irony seemed to be completely lost on her. But this is their entire strategy on the right, to perpetuate a bottomless pit of transgressions, and then when they're called out on it, to cry victim. And then Fox News would repeat those claims and blame the liberals, and then Republicans would point to Fox News as validation, and the perpetual vicious cycle continues thanks to this right-wing feedback loop that is based entirely on bad faith arguments. The only problem here is that this isn't Fox News, and Lee Sales doesn't seem interested in Sanders' gaslighting. And she shows that by calling Sarah Huckabee Sanders out on having lied herself about this idea that FBI officials were lining up to tell the administration that they'd lost confidence in James Comey. And yet when she was asked about this by investigators in the Mueller probe, Sanders admitted that this wasn't true. In reality, the reason she said it was to help perpetuate this idea that the person investigating Trump was part of some deep state cabal to take down the president. But this is the story that they needed to cook up so they'd have cover when officials rightfully investigated this administration's corrupt dealings. They needed to sell this idea to the American people that everyone was out to get them so that when they committed crimes, like extorting a foreign country for dirt on Joe Biden, like orchestrating a cover-up, like campaign finance violations, like obstructing justice, like witness intimidation, like dangling pardons, they'd have an excuse to justify it. And by standing up there at the lectern and outright lying that FBI agents were claiming they'd lost faith in Comey, Sarah Huckabee Sanders was doing her part to sell this scheme to the American people. She didn't care about telling the truth, she cared about helping protect Trump and selling his propaganda to the country. So while Sarah Huckabee Sanders' grift might work in the United States, where she lies on a daily basis on behalf of a man who represents the absolute worst of this country and then expects to cash in on it afterwards, it really doesn't look like anyone who watched this interview in Australia is going to be supporting her work. While you're here, please subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I take a deeper dive into the week's biggest stories and interview major players in the world of politics, like Kamala Harris, Adam Schiff, Katie Porter, Nancy Pelosi, Cory Booker, Eric Swalwell, and many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.